that was it for me. I'm offended. I'm kind of wondering, this is my first time I've been offended as well. Like, I put the t-shirt on, now offended. And I'm wondering, is this how lefties always feel? Like, you just walk around being offended all day because I put the t-shirt on, I'm offended. I've got such a calling thing build. He's inviting Elon to build. What are your thoughts? As a builder, ChatGPT sucks as a name, and they've still already got 800 million users. It should just be Google. And literally 4 hours ago, they released that they've plugged AI and chat into Google. And you wouldn't believe what it's called. It's called Google.
Welcome to Built to Scale, hosted by myself, Scott Wilcox from WBuild, where we craft some of the world's finest homes. And Matt Perrott from BuildPass, he's on a mission to build the world's smartest operating system for construction sites. We're two Aussie founders with global ambitions in business, technology, AI, and robotics. Every week, we're going to distill a broad set of intelligent insights into founder-driven takes that elevate your edge. Listen in to get our Aussie lens on the global playing field for anyone keen to stay ahead. Or in short, for those who refuse to be left behind.
Okay, well, everyone, welcome to Built to Scale. Maddie, where do we find you? Are you still overseas? Have you returned to Melbourne?
I am still overseas. I'm still in Austin. Been working quite hard over here, looking for office space and trying to set up the team. Yeah, I think it's aging me a bit. Just before this, as I was checking my hair and makeup, I noticed a literally 2 centimeter long hair coming off my ear. The only one that I've got, it's still there. It's shocked me. And if that's been there for months, then I have to have some words with my colleagues and my wife about why that hasn't been brought up. But maybe I've just grown it in the last week in Austin doing the long hours. So feeling a little bit aged myself. But how about you, Scotty? How are you?
Mate, I'm good. I mean, that could be a founder mode hair. You're working so hard that you don't see hairs coming out of your ears. Also could be a little 1080p hair. So if we were 4K, potentially we'd be noticing this. We would have seen it on last week's show. So be careful about that. As technology improves and Riverside's video quality improves, you might be exposed. So just keep looking after yourself there.
We should stay at 1080p. I don't think we need any more of this 4K in the studio stuff.
No, I myself, mate, I'm getting some feedback. Someone asked me the other week if I had a fat filter on our last show. And I've when I heard Seinfeld or someone say the camera adds 10 pounds. So I'm just keeping my distance from the camera this week. If you can see, I'm just slightly a little bit further back.
Let him back. Yep.
Getting rid of the fat mode. What else have you seen? What's going on over there?
Austin is great. It's a great city. One thing I'd recommend to any Aussies trying to do stuff in America, chat with other Aussies. Literally anyone is happy to chat with you. If you're Australian, if they're Australian, you've got the Australian accent. So that's a really good network. But mate, going well over here. Been really busy doing various things. One thing I noticed was big news. We got our first YouTube comment at episode 10. And this was, so thanks for the love, Jwappy or Jwappy or Jwappy. It said, watch this, didn't see the views or engagement at first, just looked and expected it to be 10,000s. This is great content. Maybe get some big names on to help with the distribution. So that's first bit of positive feedback. It's probably going to look like we've done it off a burner account ourselves. But who are we going to get on? We need to get someone on with a bit of pull.
Sorry, when I started this with you, I thought you were the big distribution guy. You were kind of a big deal on LinkedIn. You travel around the world, so maybe I've taken a wrong turn at the host level. But no, we'll get
we need to shoot for the stars.
I promise you that if I had a burner, it would not be called Jwappy. No offense to Uppy, we like you. Thanks for watching. Yeah, it'd be love to know who he is or she, and completely agree that the distribution is an issue and there should be tens of thousands of people. So maybe the bashing I gave my staff about it this week will lead to the distribution.
Well, maybe we need to start doing the whole ask for like and subscribe. So I'll do it now. If there's anything that if anyone is listening, we would like a quick like and subscribe so we can get some more distribution. But Scotty, how are you? I noticed you've got a new T-shirt on.
Well, what you would notice is I haven't come to work without a collar on for my entire career. So this is a career that's now gone for, or would be scary to now think about it. I might age myself. It would have to be 17 years. It's a 17-year career. Collar worn every single day. Even when I ran the previous business out of a share house in Richmond, and I'd be surrounded at 21 years old with the remaining items left over from the weekends, gathering before in the office, I would still get myself to work in a nice collar, trying to build a building business that was just doing a renovation of like a cottage in Brunswick at the time. So out of pure respect. But what I've seen is that all you tech unicorn founder builders roll around in T-shirts all day. So what we have here is my son. We've got a few different ones, but this is one of the first sort of Elysium T-shirts. The back of it actually has, a bit of a tagline, as you have to have with a tech business, which is design, build, and live autonomously. But I've got it on today to go full tech founder mode because we actually have our first vision strategy day with the team at AI Build, who are a bunch of PhD Melbourne Uni sort of AI grads and lecturers, and they've got their own business over there, working closely with a lot of Australian and international businesses, building out the sort of AI, what you'd call, I suppose, stack or tech within their business. So we're getting together today for our little vision and strategy day. So I thought I'd lean into it, bring it to the pod, get Jawapi to maybe follow Elysium online as well. And anyway, so that explains the T-shirt. You might not see me in a T-shirt much in my career, but if you do, I'm about to flog the tech part of it.
Nice. Well, it feels like a historic moment. Welcome to the club. You are officially a tech bro, and I must say I felt the resistance of the urge there to drop the word nerd when talking about the AI build team. So well done for not dropping nerds, but I think PhD grads and smart people was the right choice words.
Thanks. I'm now a what's it called? I'm like when you say the right thing.
Politically correct?
Yeah, politically correct tech founder.
Well done, Scotty. Also,
from
welcome.
Politically correct
Another historic moment.
Builder to politically correct tech founder within one move of removing a collar.
That's a bit of advice for anyone who is having trouble. Maybe you're getting cancelled or anything like that. Maybe it's time to lose the collar and you'll become a little bit more PC.
Absolutely. And but one thing I'm not going to do is while I will put the T-shirt on, something that's just grinded my gears a little over the last 5 to 10 years is coders, in which people like yourself then sort of loosen that term out to software engineers, which I'm okay with. And then it started to turn into builders. Now, as a registered builder myself, who's, when you guys fail at something, it's like, oops, press backspace, let's go again. When we fail at something, houses fall down and kill people, right? So, hence the term builder carries some weight. You have to have a license to do it. You have to have years of training. If something goes wrong, you're personally liable. Someone falls off a scaffold, you go to jail. Like, high consequence term builder. But you guys throw it around, second year of uni, I'm a builder. Actually, I'm actually going to quit uni, become a builder, and then just start a company the next day you're a builder, right? So, but I've let it go for 5 to 10 years until this week when Microsoft had their annual conference and they called it Build. Now, Microsoft could call their annual conference a lot of things. Microsoft are involved in a lot of things. They called it Build, and I'm like, okay. So then the CEO of Microsoft kept telling everyone, welcome to Build, welcome to Build. And I was thinking, okay, I can get through this. And then he had Elon Musk on. Wow, big name. And when he said, hi, Elon, welcome to Build, I actually saw Elon Musk die inside a little, like me, because this is a man who builds rockets, robots, cars, factories, batteries, basically everything that the human existence needs to go forward. He builds it in the physical world, and he's got young Satya inviting him to build. So that was it for me. I'm offended. I'm kind of wondering, this is my first time I've been offended as well. Like, I put the T-shirt on, now offended. And I'm wondering, is this how lefties always feel? Like, you just walk around being offended all day because I put the T-shirt on. I'm offended. I've got Satya calling thing Build. He's inviting Elon to build. What are your thoughts? as a builder?
Well, turns out the t-shirt hasn't fully removed all the non-politically correct things from you, but that's a work in progress. No, what it does remind me of is I did a software engineering degree, and it used to piss off all of the other engineering disciplines so much, like the chemical engineers and the mechanical engineers and the structural and civil engineers, that software was considered engineering. And so I used to drop that a lot with my structural and civil engineering mates, because I used to study that I was now a registered and approved software engineer. It would rile them up, just like you've been riled up by Microsoft Build. So yeah, look, it is interesting terminology. I guess there is a lot of, and we could talk about this later when we get to sort of some of the AI news, but all of the building that is going on to support the software is an interesting point. But you're right, Elon has been doing this forever. He is the interface between hardware and software, and he's been an absolute expert in doing that. So pretty offensive, but what I thought was interesting was why Elon was chatting to Satya about Grok. And we do know that Elon is a first principles guy. That's his whole motto. When he went to start his rocket company, he said, why does it cost NASA so much to put a rocket into space? I want to do it. And he was on a plane. This is how the story goes, apparently. And he put together a spreadsheet, and he knew how to source all of the parts. And he said, you know what? I reckon I can build rockets for this much. And therefore, this from first principles, this is how much it should cost without all the political red tape. And he started his rocket company. So the interesting part about Grok and its training at the moment is trying to work upwards from first principles. And so maybe this is one of the models that's going to get a whole lot better at physics, at these scientific disciplines that LLMs are already good at, but maybe Grok's going to be better. So I don't know, did you have any thoughts on Elon's announcement there?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's clear. He was talking about Grok 3.5, which is not out yet. And he was saying that it was being trained on first principles. And I think even Satya said, yeah, it sounds like you're trying to crack the physics of intelligence, which was the one thing Satya added to the conversation that was of importance. But I think what's interesting is a lot of people are training and tuning their models with a bunch of weights that are subjective. Like, we want it to be kind and we want it to be all these different things. And one of the things that X and Grok, and maybe one of the things that's going to make him different, is that it's just going to be founded on physics and first principles. And what I liked is Elon said this statement, which really resonated with me. And he said, if you violate the conservation of energy or momentum, you're either going to get a Nobel Prize or you're wrong. And you're almost certainly wrong. And I thought it was so good that this man just thinks like physics, like everything that comes out of his mouth. Like you said, grounding things back into first principles is saying, is it possible? And is it built on truth? And if it is those two things, and if you're thinking about starting a company or if you're thinking about going a direction, the only thing stopping you is basically physics. Everything else, if you ground everything you do from those first principles, then anything can be possible. And you also won't go led astray. So if you want to start an idea and it's actually not physically possible, that's a bad start. But I just think what's exciting with him is because he's building a bunch of things in the physical world that he wants. It's almost, you know how Google have got the ecosystem? There's almost an Elon ecosystem, you feel like he's building with Neuralink and SpaceX and Grok and Tesla. But it's all grounded in physical application as opposed to just software layer. So I think he's building software that's built for the real world, because he wants to plug it into Tesla, robots and things like that. So that's, I think, what's unique about him, unique about their ecosystem is that it's built on the physical world. And we'll get into later in the robot rundown about what that means and how they're being supported by Nvidia and other companies in that space. But yeah, to me, that's as a guy who thinks sort of quite similar, in terms of ground everything in truth, that seems right to me.
Yeah. And it's almost like he builds the software as a necessity to do the hardware. Like, it's like, okay, to build really good cars, I'm going to need some software to connect them all up and make them autonomous. I'll need the software to do it. But I think you're right. Everything that he thinks about tends to be in the physical world. And he's just an expert at combining software. I think, and just to wrap on this and Elon, because I have had feedback that we talk about him too much, but that's okay. With Elon and the comment around physics, obviously going to that level in our business, and to relate this back, to say that every decision has to be related back to, does physics actually stop me from doing this, is quite extreme. But what I have found is a good way to do this is ask the 5 whys. So when someone in your business says, I don't think we can do that. Well, it's like, why can't we do that? Then you uncover one layer, and then you say, well, we can actually solve for that one. And then they might say something else. Oh, why can't we do that? And you keep going through the layers. And often what you'll find is it's like a process issue, or there's a wrong assumption somewhere. So that's what I think anyone can do, regardless of what you do, is having a little bit of optimism about what is possible, and just asking the why and questioning the requirements or questioning the assumptions. Because like Elon says, if you're not violating the rules of physics, then it probably can be done. You just need to think outside of the box or change some other rule or regulation. So we can wrap on Elon there, but we are talking about business and tech news on this pod. It's not all just AI. So we had a little bit of news this week from a CEO that we talk a little bit about from the Zuck. So what have we heard from Zuck?
So one of the cool things I heard from Zuck, and he's had a big week with his goggles that he wears around, as we've spoken about over the last month or so. So you can't see Zuck now without the Meta Ray-Bans on, which are becoming iconic. It's like Jensen's jacket is Zuck's specs. And they're still quite big and clunky, so it's kind of funny to see. But he spoke about that he doesn't believe in delegating. And he's saying, look, there's so much going on at Meta, I can't clearly be across anything. But whatever I want to be across, I'm getting into whatever level of detail I want with any engineer, any team. And I thought that was pretty refreshing. And it's consistent with some of these big founder CEOs that we're seeing in charge of, decacorn companies, so tens of billions of dollars. These guys are worth, and girls are worth, hundreds of billions of dollars. So they've got no reason to work, right? So they're working purely on the fact that they're really keen to stay involved in what's going on in their businesses. Now, I think that's against the old legion of CEOs who are more professional CEOs and not founders, where basically I think there was this whole like industrial complex built on delegation from like big consultants like McKinsey and PwC and all these people to basically keep telling you to delegate more. And then you've got professional CEOs in charge of, publicly listed companies saying, delegate, just give me $20 million and I just won't do anything, and I'll have huge teams. We'll have thousands of employees and we'll deliver some shareholder value somewhere at the end there. And I think what's really interesting is saying, no, don't delegate. Be in charge of things. Be, as a CEO, get involved in whatever you want. So, which is sort of that founder mode mentality, but then also at an employee level or a manager level, product manager, project manager, technician, engineer, wherever you want to be a one-person department. Don't grab a prompt from either a client or a senior person at the business and then just forward it on to someone else, because you can get a outlook to do that. I think it's actually saying grab a prompt and then do it yourself. So manage it yourself, be a one person department and leverage technology to do so. Leverage the LLMs, or soon, and this year, we're leveraging agents. If you're not already, you will be at some point. But actually take on that agency and deliver something yourself, and then you're just raising the bar of your value. Instead of the delegation is capped at some value, and in theory, you're meant to be leveraging those below you. But I think with technology now and people being able to jump up and start their own startup within a week, if you just keep delegating everything, that person's going to go start their own business. Anyway, I just think there's something in there. I found it refreshing. There's, all the business schools in the world keep telling you to delegate everything. But then all the smartest people in the world are saying, I'm staying involved despite being worth 100 billion.
Yeah, it is very reminiscent of the founder mode phenomenon. And just in case people missed that, we probably haven't really recapped that. YC, Y Combinator, very famous incubator. In the US, has funded companies like Airbnb. So they had Brian Chesky from Airbnb come back and basically tell everyone of how he runs Airbnb. And a lot of it is similar to what you've just described that Zuck is doing, where he can remain in the detail of certain areas of the business, obviously not all of it, but picking areas that are really important to him and saying, just because I'm CEO doesn't mean that I have to just delegate all of my thinking. I can actually go in and I can make decisions on things and I can get into the details of it. So Brian Chesky gave this talk to YC, telling the companies about how he runs it and basically saying, if you're being told by all of your employees you need to remove yourself from all decisions, you're basically getting gaslit by them. And I love the conspiracy theory now, Scotty, of this is being caused by the McKinseys and the BCGs of the world. Happy to buy into it. Why not? And I like the thinking, but I think that is so true. Like you get told that if you're going to scale up, if you're going to grow, you need to create all this hierarchy and all this process. And we're just seeing that from the best companies in the world, that's actually not true. There is a hierarchy, of course, but you can still be involved in the details. And I think especially with the advent of AI and how good technology has gotten, there's no excuse now to not be able to get into the details of something, to go and learn something really quickly, and to be able to go and farm that work off to an agent and do stuff rather than just and delegating to someone else. So I totally agree with you. And to be honest, I think the middle management stack is really at risk. If all you do is manage and just take, like you said, a prompt from someone and pass it off to someone else, I think I'd be really concerned about the value that you're going to be able to provide in a few years' time when a lot of that is automated. So it's probably really pressing for everyone to have a good hard look in the mirror, just not too hard, otherwise you'll discover hairs on your ears. But that's I think it's a really good one to bring up.
Yeah, it's sort of in the agent space, all in software engineering. There's that if this then that, that sort of protocol there, and that's a really simple one because you can code it up in like 10 seconds. So you don't want to have your full function of a job be if this then that, because that can be automated very, very quickly. If you're like, thanks for the prompt, I'll bring you a solution. That's a little bit harder to automate. Especially in the physical world. So, that's potentially how people should be thinking about, not just if this, then that. So if I receive something, forward it on to someone else, if that's, you feel like job done, you're going to be automated. So, what else is going on in the CEO space now that I've just disappointed a few people?
Yeah. Well, some spicy stuff today, Scotty. Look, the other one in business and sort of CEO news, Coinbase. So we haven't talked about crypto a lot. It's kind of gone, it's not the flavor of the month anymore. It's all been AI, but crypto still exists. And Coinbase is a company that allows you to manage your crypto, buy and sell it. Have done very, very well. I had some crypto stock. Thank you, Brian, for protecting shareholder value there. But one thing that he did recently is they got hacked, and not hacked in the traditional sense. Basically, the hackers did what we would call kind of like social engineering or social hacking. And that's where rather than going and trying to crack someone's password, you just take them out to dinner, get them drunk and get them to tell you your password. That's what we would call social engineering. The hackers have done this at scale where they've found the support team of Coinbase who worked overseas. They weren't in America, and they basically bribed them. And the people who are in the support team, they don't have access to, necessarily the passwords and the private keys of the crypto, the stuff that could actually steal it. But what they do have access to is how much crypto someone has and their information, their address, details about them. So they've started bribing the customer support team to get all of this information. Then they've gone to the CEO and said, if you don't pay us $20 million, we are going to use this information to target your customers. And we are seeing this. It's a very real thing in the real world that people who have a lot of crypto, them and their families are getting targeted in quite violent attacks. There was just one in France recently where a prominent figure's wife almost got abducted. And the reason that that's very appealing for the attackers is it's quite easy for someone, if they're caught in a situation, to transfer a whole lot of value that's untraceable in crypto. So that's the issue. What I thought was really interesting and why I'm talking about all of this was Coinbase's response. So Brian, the CEO, Brian Armstrong, he responded publicly and he basically said, we, Coinbase, will not be paying the $20 million ransom. Here is what we will be doing. We will be launching a bounty. So essentially, we're going to say to all of the hackers out there that we will pay them to find you and to solve this. We are also going to be reimbursing anyone who either loses money or needs to pay any money, and so they'll be reimbursing them at scale. And this is like people who've got a lot of crypto, and we're going to be hardening all of our systems, and we're going to be doing all of this stuff. They estimated that it's going to cost them $400 million to actually do all of this. So you ask the question of like, why not just pay the $20 million ransom? And I think what this comes down to is probably a deeper principle, and something that I like to talk about a lot in it's playing the long game. And sometimes you have to make these hard decisions, not just take the quick win. He could have paid the 20 million easily and just hope for the best, but it doesn't set the right example. And so he's setting a culture of saying, we will not negotiate with terrorists, essentially. We're not going to pay this ransom. We're going to invest heavily. We're going to lose a lot of money to make this better and to set an example. And I just think this is the perfect way of showing that this is a CEO that is thinking for the long term. They're playing the long game. They're setting up what their culture is going to be. And it was actually, I think, that the share price reacted positively to this. So not only are they setting a signal for the future, they are also protecting shareholder value in a unique way. So really good example of a CEO who, frankly, had the balls to do something like this, but also is thinking about the long term and playing the long game.
Yeah, I think more and more you are seeing that the CEO, which can sound a bit navel-gazing for you and I, is having a bigger and bigger impact on the business, and their values and principles are becoming a bigger and bigger factor. Like, you hear so much about how much Steve Jobs cared about product, and, you know, how about, like, I'm just going to work at one thing at a time. And like, he did the Apple Macintosh, and that's all he focused on, and he just did it. And then he did, the iPod, and then he did the iPhone. And the owner of Salesforce was talking about when he did the iPad, he invited him into his office and showed him the iPad. And he's like, now I'm just doing the iPad. And he goes, look at all these sizes. And he's like, I'm not going to do all these sizes. I'm just going to do one size because I need iPad. And he goes, and I'm never going to have more products than you can fit on your coffee table. And so that outrageous focus was obviously his crazy quality, was his crazy principle, but it's then now in all of our pockets. Like, all of us have now got Apple devices all over us because of this one guy's principle of focusing on one thing and then just taking it to 11. And I think, what you're saying with Brian there is, like, he's obviously got his own principles, because I think in Australia, we've had a lot of corporate type espionage, or whatever you would call it. You know, we had Optus, Medibank, and all these kind of things. And then you had all these like PR firms and public spin and about, we're going to protect customers and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, you actually negotiated with these people, gave them money, and they still let the information out. You had no backbone, right? You had nothing. And I think that what you're talking about is the opposite. When you've got the founder in charge still, you've got someone who's like, no, I'm not going to negotiate with you. Like, go do what you want. I'm now going to turn my whole ecosystem on you, and we're going to use this as a guiding light going forward. So, to send a message. So once again, you see that difference between the publicly listed, professional CEO who just cares about their own position more than the foundational core values of the company.
Totally. Love it. Shall we switch gears into our next segment, which is our thanks for watching, which I believe is starting to actually converge with the AI news. It's all becoming very messy, and the waters are getting quite murky here, Scotty. So what's on the agenda for the thanks for watching segment?
Yep, we have reached the singularity on this pod. We're here because thanks for watching is now AI news. So what happens is, the world's most powerful people that we're going to get into soon, and the world's biggest companies are clearly watching. So that's probably who the burner account is. I believe that burner account who said that we should have tens of thousands of followers could be Jensen Huang. It could be Jensen's burner, because this week it is just one. So for those who are hoping for AI news and don't like listening to thanks for watching, unfortunately, it's all just now one thing. We might call it the Oracle. We don't know. But either way, if you want to be on the cutting edge, listen to us. And then a week later, listen to the biggest CEOs in the world. So this week, to kick us off, Jensen, thanks for watching. He has now realized, apparently, at Nvidia's latest conference, that Nvidia is actually an infrastructure company. Now, unfortunately, what might not back up my point here is, about 2 months ago, we spoke about if we took some of the money, the hundreds of billions of dollars that we're spending on infrastructure, and put it into the new infrastructure that is the sort of the AI factories, the AI infrastructure being energy and compute, that we could advance the economy of this country tenfold compared to putting another lane on the Monash Freeway or building another tunnel to nowhere or a railway that no one wants. Jensen's come out this week and said, look, you guys, everyone needs to get their head around that the new infrastructure is energy and compute, which then produces tokens, which we'll talk about later. And tokens are, what LLMs are producing. But the main thing is that he's basically saying we're an infrastructure company. We're going to be involved in everything. We're producing AI factories, and that basically Nvidia is getting involved at every layer of all new technology. So they're involved in the robotic space, in the software space, the LLM space, the data center space. They're involved in everything. I think just how obsessed I am. I just think their share price, which is, I think they're now the second or third biggest company in the world. I think it's way, way undervalued. And this is not financial advice, but they are becoming the platform for all the other biggest 10 companies in the world. Does that make sense? Like, I know we've spoken about everything being an Nvidia wrapper. It is. So yeah, what are your thoughts on what you're hearing from Jensen there about being the new infrastructure?
Yeah, look, there is a lot of the big tech companies are trying to vertically integrate, like we've talked about before, own more of the full supply chain of how we deliver intelligence to the world. Google tries to do it. Microsoft tries to do it, but Nvidia sits below all that. They've got these chips that others don't have. And now Jensen is talking about what is the industrial infrastructure that we need to actually produce the humanoid robots, to produce all of the chips, to be the supplier to the world. And I would agree with you that the Nvidia share price is undervalued if they can keep delivering on this, and I believe they can. But as happens with all competition, this space will heat up. We only have to look at how quickly Google has moved in certain places, and they are working on their own chips. So it really is just going to be a race and how fast that Nvidia can move to produce that infrastructure, become that infrastructure company. So I back him. I'm not going to diss him in front of you. I think that'd be a bad move, but it will get really competitive. So yeah.
Yeah, my final thought is on it. We've gone from asphalt highways to intelligence boulevards. That's the little takeaway I've got for that one. Now,
was that a ChatGPT number?
No. That's straight from the heart. The next one, and this was another thanks for watching /AI news, the Microsoft Build conference. The CTO gets up to speak, the most technical man maybe on earth. He must be, if the Microsoft CTO, he's named Kevin Scott. And he had something to say about MCP. And now after your deep dive on it last week, I now know what MCP means. And I know now, like, as you referenced, that it is like the HTTP for the internet. And he's saying, his literal words were, MCP is like the HTTPs for the Agentic Web. And I just thought, congratulations to you. I'm not sure where you got that from. But he could also be the burner account. The CTO of Microsoft has caught on a few weeks later, and that's the groundbreaking news he's come up with.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, Kevin. Eat your heart out. Just tag me next time. No, but I think in all seriousness, I know this is obviously a bit of a joke, all the navel gazing, but I think what this sort of comes back to is, yeah, like Elon says, thinking from first principles and understanding things at a deeper level. And so like what we're trying to do on this pod, looking at all the news and thinking about the future, what I think is really important is to not just look at trends and say, well, everyone's doing MCP. Let's get down to, let's use AI to figure out what that means. Like, what is a protocol? Why is this important? And how can we then translate that to existing things and the future as well? So I think this is just, it's a good example of being able to say, we've actually seen this kind of thing before, and we can pattern match. That is what VCs really are meant to do. To be honest, VCs are meant to pattern match. They go, I saw this thing that was successful in a different evolution. How can I apply that same pattern to this new revolution? So, not much else to say there. If you don't know what MCP is, little plug for last episode. It's about 10 minutes of me ranting and trying to describe what it is. But yeah, it's basically, it's very similar to the HTTP protocol that was in the old internet. MCP is like the one for the agentic web. So good on you, Kevin. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, and for dummies like me who have just spent 5 minutes lost, it's a language that allows two different people or tools to speak to each other, as I learned last week. So now on to something else we touched on last week, and we might have spoken about a few times now, which is it started our genuine concern for Apple and about how they're taking the mickey out of us and not just allowing us to have AI within the Apple ecosystem, and just now we have to have all these ridiculous things on our shirts and all these other tools that literally that we have to then plug into Apple devices to take notes and then rearrange our day and double handle all these tools. So it started with our problem with Apple. And then last week we moved it naturally to, hold on, what if Google just activate their ecosystem with all their existing models and AI? Would that drag you across? And hot off the press, currently going live at the Google annual conference, Google has just announced that they are plugging in all their Gemini models into their operating system. So you might be able to take us through more of what that looks like in a second, but it sounds like the promise and what we talk about that they're now looking at. So I'll let you go there into a sec. But the one thing I wanted to get in first was we also spoke about last week was Google, but having this branding disillusionment and just like failing and letting ChatGPT take up all their search slowly, like just gobbling it up every month more and more. And I said, if you just plug chat into Google or AI into Google and just keep it as Google and not call it Gemini, you can get back in top of this race because everyone knows what Google means. It should just be Google. Like, we're all born into this world. My kids already know the words YouTube and Google by the age of 3 or 5. They don't know the word ChatGPT. And I don't think they should ever have to learn the word Gemini. Google's a part of the dictionary, their vocabulary, and I just think they need to lean into that. ChatGPT sucks as a name, and they've still already got 800 million users. And I just think that Google need to find a way for Gemini to be the back end, like Llama, where you can go and grab a model and do cool things for builders. They need to bring back all this chat searches and things like that, and just it needs to be Google. And I think they need a complete refresh of the brand where they just say, hey, it's all here. Don't worry about going to ChatGPT. Don't download Gemini. It's Google.
I turned on Google the other day and it asked me if I wanted to use the chat mode instead, but then it's been turned off. It didn't work very well. They just need to decide, are we going all in on this? And I think the answer is they need to. And so to your point, why not? Why not just rebrand Google or rebrand Gemini as Google, turn it into an LLM, and then you can turn the old browsing mode on if you want. So if Google doesn't act on this now, I think they're pretty screwed. And I love the idea of just rebranding it all so that we don't have to have this separate Gemini app that not many people really know about.
And literally 4 hours ago, they released that they've plugged AI and chat into Google. And you wouldn't believe what it's called. It's called Google. We conjured it up last week. They've released it 4 hours ago. There's this amazing thing called Google, and you can chat to it, and it gives you way more context, and you can respond, and it leads you on your search journey in a refined and reasoned way. So anyway, congratulations to them. I'm really looking forward to using it. I haven't used it. But I know where it is. It's on Chrome. It's the first page. So I'll get in there.
Yeah. No, it's good to see they've made the right decision. They're solving the branding crisis, but it is actually really exciting. We've got Google I/O happening, which is their annual conference where they release things, and they have gone berserk. So I'm going to go through some of the things that they have announced and what they mean at a very high level. So Google I/O, they have released literally today agent mode. So that is like, we've talked about Manus.im, the company out of China that it's like ChatGPT, but it does tasks for you autonomously in the background. It's weird that OpenAI doesn't have a good version of this. They're working on it, but agent mode is coming to Google. So that's goodbye Manus. Google VO3, that's their video creation capabilities. they've just stepped it up again. And looking at some of the videos that have been created off a prompt is crazy. It's like just living in sci-fi. So again, what is that going to do for marketing? What is that going to do for box office hits? We don't know, but it's pretty exciting. We've got the Jules Code Assistant. This is, we've talked about coding assistants before, allowing the software developers to be better and allowing non-software developers to make software. Google's got their own product now. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. There is a full-on AI filmmaking capability. So you've got VO, which produces video, and now you can actually edit it as well with a whole new studio they're releasing. There's something called Project Astra. And this is the ability to now Google, not only can you talk to it, but you can have your camera on as well, and it can take in your environment and you can talk to it in real time. So something that OpenAI has also been working on. It's great to see Google doing it. They've improved their image gens. They've got Google Image Gen 4. Again, similar qualities to Google VO3, the video one. We've got Think Mode, which allows Google to think for longer and actually talk to you after thinking about something. It can talk to you back and have that conversation. And like you mentioned, Gemini 2.5 is their latest model. It's looking really good. It's got heaps of capabilities and they're plugging that into the rest of the ecosystem. So I think it is safe to say that Google is one of the most impressive companies to ever exist. They probably over the last 5 years didn't really innovate as much as they could. But what I suspect has happened here is because of politics and because of concern of shareholder value, Google had all of this AI capability ready to go years ago. They were using it internally, but they've kind of like had the shackles on it. They were worried about releasing the AI into the market and to be the ones to potentially end the world. And then Sam Altman has come in and he's just unshackled himself and OpenAI, and that's let the cat out of the bag. Now Google's like, well, we don't want to lose shareholder value. The founders are back in. And they have just gone, like I said, absolutely berserk. They're shipping like crazy. And it's pretty cool to see them hit back. And yeah, they're back in full swing.
Yeah, the CEO had a interview with Friedberg on the All In pod this week. I don't know if you saw that, which was very interesting timing because I didn't know this show was happening. But, you know, he was pretty clear that Larry and Sergey are like just back there, like in the engineering rooms, just going, you know, product to product. And there's no secret. Like, that's why we are where we are. You basically have a bunch of professional teams, like we spoke about before, just like protecting the search bubble. So innovation dies. We're just protecting the cash cow, similar to Apple protecting the iTunes margin. And therefore, we didn't have the Steve Jobs just going nuts on that. We get this into all our products. So it just sounds like Larry and Sergey have come back and then, yeah, just gone, what are we actually doing here? We produce products. And then they've just gone full product nuts. And now, yeah, they're plugging Gemini into Gmail, Maps, calendar, tasks, planning, shopping, into the whole ecosystem. So, we wish for it. They've announced it. I agree. It's ultra impressive. I get when you're at this scale, there aren't businesses like at this scale, like the previous businesses at this scale were like oil companies and stuff. There hasn't been businesses at this scale that can then iterate and innovate really quickly when new technology comes along. So it is super impressive. They might be a couple of months slower than we all like Sam might do something, or a small business like DeepSeek or Cursor, one of the smaller Chinese firms might pop up and do something cool and you go, why aren't they doing it? They might take 2 months, but when you've got to leverage 1 million employees to go in a direction, or however big they are, it has to be slightly slower moving. But whenever they do something, they seem to do it well once they get there.
Yep. And look, that honestly is a great segue into the next piece of AI news, which is OpenAI's announcement of Codex, which is their coding assistant and their coding model. And I think to your point, they have all of these resources and they are trying to own the market. So when you look at the coding assistants out there that are doing really well, like Cursor or Windsurf, which got bought by OpenAI, now, even though OpenAI is a little bit late to the market in building this coding assistant, they have put the full force of their however many billion they just raised and all of their smart employees into this market because they saw that it was growing really fast. So what is Codex? It is basically OpenAI's coding specific model. It's for creating software and software only. The difference between that and the generic model. So when we look at some of the other tools, like you mentioned, Cursor, growing like crazy, people being able to vibe code apps into fruition. Under the hood, they're using different models that, like, Claude's 3.7, which that model can also go and write you a poem or whatever it might be. Instead, this is a model that's specifically designed for coding from the ground up, and they're building the ecosystem around it. So at the moment, what it means is you can plug it into your current development workflow when you're building software. It can help you do that, and it runs on OpenAI's server. So you could, instead of just having your computer helping you out with it, you could have hundreds of agents helping you code at the same time. But what I think is going to happen here is, with the purchase of Windsurf, which was that competitor to Cursor, this is all going to get merged into one. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, OpenAI is trying to own the consumer layer of all AI. They want every interaction with AI to be able to happen through them and their apps, so they can deliver this through ChatGPT. They'll integrate it so you won't need to use a coding environment like a Cursor or Microsoft's, and they're trying to own that consumer layer. That's why I think it's so relevant to the announcement from Google that we just saw literally today at Google I/O. It's all about distribution now. It's almost like AI has been solved, because there's open source models out there. And so everyone knows that AI is really powerful. It's a race to how can we get this into people's hands and integrated into the ecosystems. And what this reminds me of is just how completely f***ed Apple is. Like, and we're going to have to cut that out. But like, look at what Google is doing and what OpenAI is doing. Where are you, Apple? You're screwed. Anyway, so that's Codex.
It's welcome back to. Are you sure you're not a registered practitioner builder with that non-politically correct statement? You've put the collar on, and yeah, no, mate, I completely agree. I think the thing that excited me most, because I think it was Greg Brockman that sort of did the big announcement of Codex, and it's way over my head. Obviously, I'm not a software engineer. But then when Sam started talking about it, Mr. Product Man, who I can fully understand because he talks at dumb level that I can understand, he basically said this is the biggest thing to ever happen to coding. Now you can talk yourself up a bit too much sometimes, but the main thing he said is that now you don't just have like that lovable like coding assistant. You're inviting something into your existing code, and also you can tell it to go do something, and it might spend 2 days on it. Like, it might work for 48 hours in the background, just punching out code, doesn't need a toilet break, doesn't take a sick day. And it's just going. And then I think that then when you think about that in the agent swarm fashion, how many of those can you get working together? And then that's where that sort of, that one person billion-dollar company idea starts coming together. But as we always say, and we're talking to most people who aren't CEOs here, is you're also that one person department. Like, I want to handle procurement for the business. And you're like, oh, that procurement team used to be 10 people. No. I'm going to handle procurement. And, they release the agents.
Yeah. It's just this really fascinating concept that I don't think we've solved yet, of how much autonomy do we want? So, like, to your comment, this could go away for 48 hours and work for you, which is like really exciting. That's a technological marvel, the fact that they're able to achieve that. But then it's like, is it going to build the right thing? And how much interface is there with the human to guide it? I think is something that needs to be managed sort of on a case-by-case basis. And how do we integrate that into our workflows? Like, are all problems just going to get solved by AI without, are we just going to farm literally one prompt off? Or are we actually going to work collaboratively with the AI to do our tasks every day? Which I don't think there's an easy answer to. And it's probably, the answer is, it just depends on the environment and the task and how good the AI gets.
Well, it all seems to start at the coding level. So coding seems to be the first thing. It's funny, engineers doing themselves out of a job potentially, but all the biggest improvements seem to start at the coding level, and then they make their way into other applications in life. So it seems like from an agentic point of view, coding seems to be the first thing where you can actually release something and have it do lots of work. Like we're not at that stage where we can do that in other parts of our workflow where we can just release operator or something to go and just perform all of our tasks for us. And I know there's people building workflows out on projects on sites like N8N, I think is one, and a few others where they're trying to build workflows so that you can, create content and publish it on Instagram as like a marketing workflow, for instance. But I don't think anything's off the shelf ready to go yet. But they're basically saying that this Codex platform is off the shelf, software engineering. So yeah, watch this space, way over my head. Look forward to you continuing to deep dive on it and educate us. And speaking of education from Matt, let's jump into, Matt's hacks. And if I get involved at some point, tool of the week, which is maybe some people are going to be calling me tool of the week, but so I've got to recheck that name as well. But what's happening in what are the takeaways? What are the tools? What's Matt's hacks for this week?
Yeah, well, you mentioned N8N, which is basically a drag and drop way of automating some of your tasks. You can put things into your workflow, say when this happens and I want this agent to go do this for me and come back with the result. I've actually trialed because we like Australia made, a Aussie company that's doing really well in this space. So it's called Relevance AI, about 5 years old, based out of Sydney. Raised a big round, I think 24.5 million quite recently, doing really well. And what Relevance AI does is it's very similar to N8N in setting up those workflows, but it's way more automated. So I'm going to give you, and I've only been in there for a little bit, again, not affiliated with them. I just thought the tool was really cool. The only thing that I've done with it so far, I haven't set up this whole multi-agent workflow. I plan on doing that, so I can report back hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But what I just did was take one example of a workflow that I was going to have to do quite manually and say, could I build a little agent for this? It was more of just a general workflow. And so I'm over in Austin at the moment. I'm flying back and forth. I'm having to look for a rental rather than staying at a hotel each time. And so I've got a realtor who's helping me find a bunch of rentals around Austin. And rather than he's sending me them on iMessage, and I can't deal with that. This comes in, this comes in. I'm a nerdy bloke. I like a spreadsheet or a Notion database to look at all of this. I said, rather than me going, copying all of that in, putting the details and doing my analysis on it, can I build an agent to do that for me? And so I went on to Relevance. I just prompted it, said, I want you to build this for me. Said, here's what I think we should do, a little bit of tweaking. And within probably 10 minutes, I had the ability to, from my phone, whenever I got a new listing from this bloke, I forwarded it to an email address, and the email address figured out all of the details on the property that I cared about. It sent it off to a Notion database, and then I've got all of that in a nice little spreadsheet for me to review. And so it's nothing groundbreaking, but that's an example of the kind of thing you can do. And I think Relevance AI aside, we all need to get into this mindset of the next time I'm about to do a task, how can AI do this task better, or how can it do it for me? And so that's one example just in there. The other thing that I thought that I would quickly call out just on the kind of the vibe coding, the building, this is not necessarily a hack of a week or anything, but we've talked about before the ability to quickly build apps that do really well. And so I don't know if anyone's used it based on how many reviews they've got in the App Store. I'm sure some listeners would have. It's called Cal.ai. And so this is an app. It's so simple that you take a photo of your food. It uses AI to tell you how many calories are in there. So rather than you doing typical calorie counter stuff and putting it all in, and that's the reason no one ends up being successful because you got to manually put the data in. It just takes a photo of it and does it for you. This app is only a couple of years old. It was started by a guy that I don't think had much coding experience. He's vibe coded it into existence, and reportedly doing $2 to $3 million in subscriptions a month with less than 10 employees. So really cool example of just an app that's taking off as a result. And I'm sure you could go download Cal.ai. And one that I saw that's in a similar vein that could become really popular that I thought was quite funny was an app called DripMax. So what DripMax is, and apparently Drip is like Gen Z lingo for like, that looks cool or something.
Oh, yeah,
Shine
Drip.
my age here.
Yeah, okay, yeah, yep. I have heard Drip before, mainly used around like NBA players, like wearing like cool get up on their way into the game.
I thought you were being sarcastic there, Scotty, but you actually are. But
Drip. I can't say I'm bringing
look,
any, or maybe today with the
well,
t-shirt. But
you're more in with me, but this app called DripMax, what it does is you take a photo of someone's outfit, and it will rate it like based on like, you know, how cool it is, different factors, and then you can go and share that with friends. You've been dripped, and you get rated out of 10, and how you can improve your style, and just it's the kind of thing that could take off, right? And also do 2 million a month. So where am I going with all of this? If you have ideas now, like DripMax or Cal.ai, it's not that hard to do. And I would just get on your bike and start doing it. Start using AI to help you to do something. I'm seeing so many examples of this with friends, with colleagues. So I think that that's just really cool. What's your tool of the week, Scotty?
Mate, I don't have a new tool of the week. What I do is I have an update, because weekly we talk about Notebooklm and just what a handy tool it is to you to do for research and just to get things into a format that works for you. So basically, they've finally gone from a web, and this is once again owned by Google, believe it or not, but they've gone from a web Notebooklm where you had to go on the browser and it's just a bit clunky. But as of like 2 days ago, it's now an app. So you might not be able to see, got the phone here, click on Notebooklm, and it's basically going to have, you're not going to be able to see it, but it's got all of the things I've ever searched for on Notebooklm. And what Notebooklm does is it then takes a topic, any topic you can think of. It goes and grabs every resource. You can also drop YouTube clips in there, podcasts in there, whatever you want, or like big, long legal documents, whatever you want. And it will give you a summary of it. And then it'll also give you a personalized podcast just breaking down that thing. So go a really complex topic into a 10 to 20 minute podcast with two people. Within Notebooklm now, and what you've been able to do now for about a month is you can then chat with that podcast in text, or with the document itself, like just ask the document, which is not too dissimilar to ChatGPT. But then in the studio function, you can interact with the podcast itself. So as you've got these two podcast hosts going off and talking about whatever topic, you interrupt and you say, no, just hold on, go back. What did you actually say there? And you can get into you can disrupt the podcast that's happening, but you're tuning that learning to exactly what you want to learn, asking it questions, asking to refine it, and then you take it a step further, which I've done a lot, is you then ask it to apply it to you and say, well, that's all great, that Brian Chesky said this thing about Airbnb, but what does it mean to me at WBuild? What does it mean to me at Elysium? And then our little podcast hosts start telling you how you can bring it into your own business, and then you can challenge them on it. And anyway, you can end up in full-on conversations here. But it is just for this week's tool of the week for me. It is now an available app, and just a little hot one, which I don't want to, I can't go too hard on because it's quite stealth at the moment. The original founders of Notebooklm have left. So Google's taken it over and they're out. And they've started a new app, and it's basically a morning podcast where they scan all of your tools within your personal ecosystem. And like watching the Today Show, they give you a little pod on what's going on in your life. So
that is so good.
So
that
you basically wake up in the morning, you start brushing your teeth, you turn on, this is what I believe they're about to release. You turn on, you press your play button, they go through your calendar, they go through your task list, they go through your transcripts that Apple might eventually one day keep. They go through, maybe some of the conversations you had last week, the commitments you've got. They might even give you some encouragement for the day. So it's just a little personal, it's just a little personal pod. Really simple idea, like you just said. Like, imagine they probably sold Notebooklm to Google for some extraordinary amount, and then somehow they've been released back into the wild, which is never a good idea if you're buying something. And then they've just gone out and go, why don't we just use this tech to just podcast, just give everyone a personal podcast on what their day is going to look like and what's going on in their life, and they can interact with it, maybe get some advice for the day, or about how to maybe think about your day differently or what you should focus on. So once again, I just thought a really cool little tool that's going to come out soon.
Yeah, that is incredible. I'll be using that for sure. Should we head into the robot rundown?
Absolutely. Favorite part of the show for me. And look, one in every 2 episodes, it's kicked off by our man Brett Adcock from Figure AI, who's still creating humanoid robots and have an enormous valuation considering they're basically pre-revenue. They had their controversy at BMW where they gave them a couple of robots for research and then claimed that they were on the production line. Then BMW said they weren't. And then BMW said, well, maybe they were. Maybe there was 3, maybe there was 4. So they had a bit of controversy. So he's kept quiet. I felt like he's been a bit quieter the last couple of weeks as he's in his lawsuits, raising his $30 billion round or something. But it starts off with him talking about saying, so retweeting Jensen, our other bromance, where Jensen came out and said that humanoid robots are a $50 trillion industry. And the way that this is coming about is that the idea being that the world that we have built for ourselves, being Earth and how we've taken over it, we've built it for the use of humans. We've optimized it for humans. Therefore, what Jensen and Brett are betting on is that the form of physical AI that will actually work and be scalable is humanoid robots, because they can interact with the world the same way that we do. So all the other weird little robots are all going to be single function or not as scalable. But because humanoid robots, you can scale them like you can scale humans. We have scaled ourselves to 8 billion. And the bet that they are making is that everyone of age will have at least one. And when you do the maths of that, and you got multi-billion units of something and you charge them out for multi-thousands of dollars, you have hundreds of trillions of dollars of economy. So, really interesting to see when Jensen says things, they actually happen. He usually just says them 10 years early. Our man Brett jumps on it, and gets involved, which he always does. But it's a really interesting thought, because last week we spoke about Sequoia saying that AI was a, multi-trillion-dollar industry. For the first time, we've never entered a new technology that was multi-trillion, even with inflation. But because the infrastructure has already been built of, the internet, and distribution is there because everyone has access to the internet. When new technology comes on now, it comes on the back of what you'd call the train tracks of that existing technology. So when there was a light bulb, we couldn't just have a trillion light bulbs pop out the next day because the infrastructure wasn't there. So some really interesting thoughts there about what the size of the robot space is going to be, and that these guys are going to capitalize on it. And I might go into some deeper detail on what else Nvidia is doing in robots, but have you got any thoughts on the scale that they're talking about there?
Yeah. And I mean, the scale, but also just to what you said around humanoid robots fitting into our environment. It sounds so simple, but it's such an important point. Rather than trying to change the world to fit what robots are, it's going to be so much easier if we can solve the humanoid robot. So I think that's just a really important point. And I have a prediction for what this could mean just before you get into the deeper details of the humanoids. Yes, I think that humanoid robots are going to be a big thing, but what I think will happen is that the humanoid robots will command an ecosystem of other robots as well. Because if you think about it, why just replace what humans can do when we can also augment what we can already do? So there are things that humans are not any good at. We build other technology. We build cars and planes and other things. So what if the humanoid robots can command much smaller robots who can go and command your freaking what are the planners called?
Yes, I forget
the Roomba. The Roomba.
Yeah.
It can command your Roomba and your drones for your deliveries. And so they actually just start to help automate your life rather than doing all the tasks themselves. So that's my prediction of where humanoid is going to go. And I guess to your question around what does this mean for market cap, if it does that, then it means anyone who's controlling these humanoid robots and creates an ecosystem, the market cap could be even bigger. But yeah, let's do a bit of a deep dive into some of the tech and what this means for humanoid robots.
Yeah, so as always, Nvidia is right at the heart of it. So they're the infrastructure layer to humanoid robots. Previously, we'd spoke about the Omniverse, which was where Nvidia is building on the back of all their chips. They're building the simulation universes where robots can be trained. And I think the headline for us at one point was like, robots have been trained before they come alive, which is completely true. But they've got this new model coming out for sort of robot learning. It's called Isaac Groot. And it's actually built on the back of a famous book by Daniel, I think, Kuhneman, called Thinking Fast and Slow. And the idea, it's a really famous book for people to read about how to think. And it talks about, you know, this sort of slow, considered reason thinking. And it's basically saying, and then a fast action. So as opposed to just running around in your life, just doing a bunch of things, really think about something and then go into action and get it done. And that's how basically they're building the brains out for these robots, is they're basically saying there's this thinking, slow, reasoning, context development. What am I here? What am I about to do? And then it actually clicks into another part of the robot's brain, so to speak, in biological terms, and then goes into action. And what's really cool is that we've spoken about this before as well, in terms of, say, we've spoken about the bricklaying example, or whatever your craft is, or whatever you're good at, what you do with your dexterity. You can train a robot for a certain amount of hours a day, and you can do something once. What's quite cool is that if you do that and log that within the Nvidia Omniverse, they can then run thousands of simulations of how that could be optimized or go bad. And that simulation is run in an environment that's based on physics to sort of grab a hold of what's going on here. It appears to me in the human robot space that robots will be trained by humans doing manual tasks, whether that's putting the shopping away, laying a brick, putting the clothes on the line. There's going to be a human that's training a robot how to do it. But then simultaneously, they're going to run thousands of simulations to improve that and optimize it, to sort of get the robot brain thinking. Because when you're a kid, you might have watched mum or dad put the clothes on the line 1,000 times. And then when you go to do it, when it's your turn, when you get the chore, you didn't just see it once and you sort of got your little weird arms going up and you try and do it. You've just taken this thing in over the course of your life. And then when it's your turn, you know, you might have watched your parents drive, you know, for thousands of hours, and then it's your turn to drive. So I think it's the equivalent of that, but it's fast tracking it so it's ready to go from day one. So these robots are born with years and years and years of experience and context within them. So I think that's really cool. And the other thing is, Jensen was saying that they've actually been working with Disney and Google DeepMind, because you got to remember Nvidia's background is in like graphics cards and gaming, and they sort of helped develop, you know, how we saw Pixar. You know, a lot of this has been built off the back of Nvidia, but they're going from animation to simulation. It now means that even the things that we're going to be watching on TV are going to be based on real human world physics. So, just this, I think that the change that's happening here, the animation to simulation, or from Pixar to like a multiverse, is this change of thinking of the way you've got to start thinking about robotics and physical AI and AI in general. And then the meta version of this, Elon saying we're all just living in a simulation, but it's all getting really real. So the chip layer is allowing a certain amount of data and context to go into it that is the equivalent of a human lifespan that's going to be ready from day one. So that's the context. And it's just really exciting for everything for me.
Yeah, totally. And I think that analogy you drew between what the kid watching the parents hanging the clothes on the line is good, but it also goes one step further. It's not just watching the same thing and learning it. It's been put into different scenarios and testing things. So to your example on the bricklaying, how can we not only do that better, but in a safe way? Let's throw all these different environments and all of these different variations on what could happen. It could actually come up with a much safer, more efficient way of laying bricks. And then the robot can do that. So the combination of these two worlds, yeah, it's getting very, very sci-fi, but it's also hopefully going to lead to really, really good outcomes.
Yeah. And then you're still being able to scale yourself, which we spoke about. Even when you were talking before about robots commanding robots, you're going to have like your foreman robot who might be in charge of, like, that's the robot you trust. You know, so you're only trusting one, and then it might be in charge of other robots or autonomous vehicles within your life. So that's really cool. So there still is the human layer, that's then being optimized and simultaneously trained, in other sections. But so that was a bit of a deep dive for the robot rundown. Very exciting. As we always say, if you tune into an Nvidia conference, you know that in between a year and two later, it's going to be retail news on Channel 9. Keep an eye out for what that actually means for robotics in 12 to 18 months. And once again, he's helping get your prediction of a robot in the home in 2025. So very important. And then my final thoughts just for today, try to wrap up with a bit of philosophy. We try to, you and I, at this show, so it's not just all deep tech, to try and bring it back to reality and how we live. And once again, it starts with Jensen, but he talks about companies, big companies like OpenAI, their internal metrics now, their KPIs, how many tokens are they producing per quarter? And he's saying it's going to go more into that manufacturing type because they're really manufacturing intelligence. It's going to get into tokens per hour. And before I go on with my philosophical rant, can you tell everyone what a token is?
Sure. And it's a very, very simple answer. A token is basically a way that the LLMs break up the words or the information that we're feeding in, whether it's video, whether it's image. They break it up into these little tokens that the LLM can understand. And that's important because, one, it's the way that the LLM works, but also because it's essentially an indicator of the throughput. It's how much intelligence how many insights are we creating? How much data are we consuming from users? So it's almost becoming a new metric by which we measure the usage of AI and the amount of intelligence that is being produced. So it's actually a very simple answer, but you'll be hearing it more and more, the word token.
So Ilya Sutskever, who's the sort of CTO and what apparently is the brains behind OpenAI, he said that all LLMs all artificial intelligence is just predicting the next token. And he goes, while that sounds simple though, predicting the next token requires a deep understanding of the underlying reality of the world and everything that's ever happened in the world. So they've scraped the internet, and that's where the current LLMs have got their understanding from. But it just made me bring it back to humans, because we always talk about the artificial intelligence is really following human livelihood and intelligence. We spoke about autonomy, agency, early learning, supervised learning at schools, and how this sort of human and AI experience is pretty much going down a parallel pathway that it's just a bit behind us. But this token thing made me think about when he said all intelligence is predicting the next token. I think it's almost similar with us as humans, that all we are is our next output. And which, if we call that a token, let's do it for now, then what we're doing is we're going throughout our life, we're capturing as much data as we can, and we're basically distilling that into our next thought or word or action. And it includes the food you eat, the people you meet. And it just makes me think, if you go and take some risks in life and you try something new, you are gathering data. You're just capturing new data. You could potentially learn physics like Elon tells us to do. But whatever it's going to do, it's going to give you more and more data to predict the next token and have your next output be of something of intelligence. And sometimes you might hallucinate like an LLM might, but I just think, don't stress. There's always going to be another prompt, another opportunity to produce your next token. And it's got that bearing of almost a Buddhist-like mantra of just be present and just be in the moment, because all you are is just the next token. So that was my my final rant, to basically say, don't take yourself too seriously. No one's going to judge you. They're just going to give you another prompt. You're going to get another opportunity to produce an excellent token. And every mistake is capturing data, and a bit of Buddhism.
I think if we ever do merch, that's going to go as a catchphrase. You are just your next token. Love it, Scotty. I'm not going to add anything to that. If any listeners are still with us, I think we've been going for a while. Thank you for listening. I'm personally 10 minutes late to a meeting, so we can wrap it there. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks, mate. Good luck with your next token.
See you, Scotty.